5 months ago, I purchased a DJI Mavic Air. What are my thoughts and opinions 5 months later? We're going to find out. Stay tuned. So many of you may or may not know that before I purchased the DJI Mavic Air, I owned the Phantom 3 Standard. And I was a little bit skeptical when switching from the Phantom 3 Standard to this drone because my Phantom 3 Standard took excellent video and it was a larger drone, and I was a little bit nervous that the smaller size of the drone would not be able to take as good a video. However, it takes excellent video. It folds down to become quite a compact sized drone that you can carry in a nice, bag to go. It's really way more convenient, and it's a lot easier to store. Now the controller, I really like this as well because also like the drone, it's very small and very portable, but it feels robust. It doesn't feel cheap. It feels like a very nice solid controller. It feels good in the hands to me, and I really do like it. Now, after numerous firmware updates and numerous flight experiences, I will say that I am absolutely in love with this drone. I just am so amazed at the technology and the fact that, this drone, at first when I first got it, had a couple hiccups with the firmware. We had some shaking issues, stuff like that. But after a couple firmware updates, to me, this drone is running tip-top shape. All the functions and functionality is working for me, and I am really, to be honest, quite pleased and a little bit shocked at the quality of the video that this smaller drone takes, especially since the camera is so much smaller than the Phantom 3 standards. But the quality, I think, is just unmatched. The fact that you can get this kind of quality video out of a small, portable, fit-in-your-hand drone is amazing. The app itself works flawlessly for me. I know some people have had some issues, but as far as my experiences, I've not really had much negative at all. I'm very pleased with this drone. Now, this drone right now has a ND filter installed by Polar Pro. It is an ND16 filter, and you can see that it kind of makes those colors pop a little bit more. So I love the fact that there's a lot of support for this particular drone. There's a lot of accessories available in the market today, and that itself just really gives you a great experience, just knowing that the support is there, and knowing that DJI is a very good company and they back their products. So 5 months later, I do not regret this decision at all. I'm actually glad that I sold my Phantom 3 Standard. Now, I love the Phantom 3 Standard. It was a very reliable drone. It worked great, but it was very big. I had to carry it around in a very large case, and it took up a ton of space. And even the controller was double the size of this controller and probably triple the size of the drone itself, the Mavic Air. But the controller for the Mavic Air, the actual Mavic Air itself, it all feels like quality, workmanship. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel chintzy. It folds very nicely. It's very secure. And I absolutely love this drone. And I would say if you're on the fence about getting this drone, and you're not quite sure if it's worth the money, I would say hands down, for me anyway, it's worth the money. Now, I've never had a Mavic Pro, and no, you're not going to get the range out of this as a Mavic Pro. However, for me personally, I did some range testing, and 3 miles for me is plenty far enough to get the drone away. You don't want to send the drone. I don't personally want to send the drone any further than that. Just because for me, there's no need to do that. So the 3 mile flight range for me was great. Now keep in mind that's in a very low interference area with not a lot of Wi-Fi interference. If you live somewhere more suburban, where you're kind of more in a town, a very populated area with lots of buildings and interference and towers, you're not going to get the same amount of range just because of all that interference. and therefore, you know, you might want to go with something different, you know, if you lived in that kind of area. But for me, you know, I live out in the country now, and even when I lived in town, you know, the drone was able to do everything I needed it to do, you know, for me personally. But, you know, if you're wanting to get a nice quality drone that takes great video, great pictures, you know, I've never had any issues with the gimbal at all either. I love the gimbal lock that locks the gimbal into place. You know, I've never had any issues with the gimbal. It's always worked flawlessly. You know, my horizon, you know, has always seems pretty straight for the most part. You know, I've just been very pleased. And you'll see when we're going to go ahead and return the drone back home. And we're just going to see, you know, I wanted to show you how accurate this precision takeoff is, and how close it can actually, you know, get itself to landing exactly where it took off with this precision takeoff. You know, all these sensors and all this technology, really, you know, for the money, I don't think you can go wrong. I'm very excited about the technology, and it's definitely a step in the right direction, you know, that we have this technology at our fingertips, you know, for a reasonable price. Now, I know it's a little bit expensive off the bat, but you have to figure, you know, for all the functionality, the follow me mode, you know, the return to home accuracy, obstacle avoidance sensors, you know, downward visioning positioning sensors. You got obstacle avoidance front and rear, plus you have the downward visioning positioning sensors. I mean, I just think that's amazing for this price point to have all of that feature and all these different flight modes. But you'll see when it lands, it's just extremely accurate. I'm not even touching the controller at all. This is completely autonomously landing itself, you know, where it took off. And you can see it's within, I'd say, 6 inches. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, edrone out.